Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tammy Tuckey Show. My name is Tammy Tuckey, and it's so good to see you guys this evening. So tonight, I'm really excited to welcome a special guest, but he has his own film and own introduction, so I'm going to actually play the trailer for you guys this evening. So let's take a look.
Billy Flanagan.
Billy Flanagan.
Billy Flanagan.
Billy Flanagan.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Billy Flanagan's Experience.
It was amazing.
Billy's been working at Disney for a very long time. He was like an institution.
I was loving what I was doing. It became my life. I became somebody who would learn things fast so that I would always be the one that they would turn to.
Hats off to Billy Flanagan. You know, the pandemic shut him down, so he decided to do singing telegrams with a personalized song and dance, spreading love one smile at a time.
I just say, take me where I'm supposed to go today to make a difference in someone's life.
Everybody says when you work on Disney property, you're creating magic for the guests. For Billy, that doesn't stop on Disney property. That's just his way of life.
He's pedaled over 3,000 miles on his bike, delivering smiles.
He is doing something so very simple, and it's making so many people happy.
He's like a fairy godfather, someone magical who just always comes when they need to be there.
My job at Disney has just been the most incredible journey. So I wake up every day and I think I am. I have no reason not to be the happiest man on earth.
So tonight, I'm excited to welcome my friend and Walt Disney World performer, Billy Flanagan, to the show. Welcome, Billy.
Hey there.
Hi.
I see in the background you have your Magical World of Barbie birthday party show.
I
So
do.
I wore my All-American.
Oh, you did? I didn't even notice that when we were chatting in the room. So
Look at how huge my hair looks. Oh my gosh, it's ginormous.
You look cute. It's the Ken vibe. I like
Yeah, you know.
It looks great. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited because I was looking back into the last time we kind of officially talked on the record, which was back in like 2012 with Beth McShane, who played Barbie.
That was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago. Is that weird?
How can that be?
I know it's been a long time, and we've known you for so long, my family and I, but a lot of people have known you for so long. It's been so wonderful to watch this film about you and get to know this totally other side of you, because you've been in touch with so many families over the years because of being a performer for 40 years, which is amazing. So how did the film kind of start and come to be?
Well, I was down during COVID, everybody was, and I started doing this really, what I thought was just, a Billy thing. I took my show on the road. I was out for 2 weeks. I couldn't be in my house anymore. So I just got on my bike and I decided that I was going to just start visiting people, friends of mine, along my bike rides and just give them a socially distant hello, a little hellogram or whatever. So I stopped at one girl's house. She started crying. I'd ring the bell and I'd back way up. And that turned into a little singing telegrams that I decided to do because after she posted that I had come to visit her, there were other people say, "Oh, I hope he comes to my house." And I noticed that. So I went to their house and then it just kind of grew from there and kind of got really big. So I came up with a little song and dance, and they were trying to get me after I had ridden only 1,000 miles doing all of my Flanograms. That's what I ended up calling them. I didn't name them that. I was calling them Billy Grahams. I give that to Jen Warren, who was brilliantly comedic, and she came up with Flanograms. I wish I thought of it. I didn't. So then I came up with a song, a little dance, and I started, doing more of these. So after 1,000 miles, they got together and said, "Hey, Billy's been spreading all this happiness to all of us. Why don't we try to get him on Some Good News?" That I guess John Krasinski was doing during COVID. And that never panned out, but that push got so much publicity that I was in a newspaper. That article went to the Associated Press, kind of went all over the country.
I remember.
And I was getting calls from Good Morning America. And I think people were just looking for feel-good stories during this dark time. Good Morning America, People Magazine, The Dr. Laura Show, The Doctors. There were another show that I'd never even heard of called The List that had called and done some interviews, a ton of podcasts. So while I was doing all of that, I continued biking and I decided to take my biking across the country. I was asked to drive somebody's car across the country. And I said, I can as long as I can put my bike on the back. And then I'd stop in every state along the way. So people that I knew who lived in different states who were following my Flanograms, who thought they'd never get one, I'd show up at their door and they were just shocked. And one girl just fell to the ground. Some people were crying. It was just so fun and amazing. Well, all of that being said, a director from California who apparently used to work at Disney, I never knew him when he was a cast member there.
Yep.
Cullen Douglas. Mm-hmm. He contacted Andrea Canny, a friend of ours, and said, "Do you know if there's ever been a documentary about Billy Flanagan?" And she said, "Gosh, I don't know. Let me ask him." And I just laughed and said, "No, why would there be?" And my light went out. How do I fix that?
Oh no! Did you hit
what
it?
Happened?
Did you hit like a plug?
I don't know. Maybe I did. I hit the plug. Sorry.
It's okay. Timmy. It happens.
Oh, that's too bright. Oh,
there we go. We can see you. Yes.
Okay. So then Andrea called me, said no. So she got back to Cullen. And they said, "Well, we'd like to talk to him. Maybe we were going to do a producing partner of mine who has a company called 12th Angel Productions out of Atlanta. Would like to do a short about his Flanograms, the feel-good short." So they talked to me and they interviewed me. We did a Zoom call. And as they were asking questions about my life, my career at Disney, and just things that had happened, they were asking about family and all that. So they found out a lot of information, and they decided that instead of just doing a short about the Flanograms, they would do a feature-length documentary about my life. So they said, double check with your family to make sure that they're okay with it. And so I did, and they were, kind of, oh gosh, it's all going to be out there. But then they said, yeah, you know what? The basis of the story is going to be this feel-good thing and overcoming thing and kindness and all. So they decided to do that. Now, honestly, I never thought it was really going to happen.
I remember hearing about it, saying that it was going to come to be. I was like, "Oh, this sounds great!"
Right? And things like it was one of those too good to be true kind of things. So they followed me around one day. They hired a cameraman. Now Cullen did all of this in his house. He never left his house. He did everything through Zoom with an editor, with the producer in Atlanta. The editor was in California. The music director was in Ohio. The animator was in Pennsylvania. And he did everything from his house. So all of the on-camera interviews that they have of me, they hired a cameraman to come to my house, but he did all the interviews through Zoom.
With you. So he was still kind of like there, but not there.
He was there. Yeah. And just so brilliant. And they came out a second time. So I did 2 days of interviews, one day where they follow me around. And then the rest of it was just me providing footage. So they'd say, hey, do you have anything of a show in front of the castle? Hey, do you have anything with your family when your kids were younger? Do you have, so as they were doing that, I was, uploading things to my computer and sending them off on their way. And
was it weird to kind of go back and see a lot of this that you probably haven't watched in a long time?
There were things I could not even remember doing. There was a convention I did, and I actually called. It was myself and Colleen Wilson, who was a singer in Tarzan. And we were at this convention, and I was singing gospel, and she was rapping. And I sent her a little piece of I'm like, Colleen, do you remember this at all? She's like, not a clue. Have one of those fly-by-night little convention shows that somehow we got footage of, and neither of us remembered it at all. But there were so many things that I found that I didn't know that I had. Mm-hmm. There was a show called Swing, 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 which was great. And realizing the timing of it, I had made a movie back in 1989 called Dream Trap. And I was a main character in the movie. Well, at the time the movie was filming, Karen, my wife at the time, was pregnant with my third son, Adam. So he was born in July. So during the filming that was happening during July, then I found a video of a show that was filmed 2 weeks after my son was born. So in the middle of August, and it was called Swing, Swing, Swing. And I remember being in rehearsal for it. And we performed it at Epcot on the American Garden stage before it was covered, before the Barbie show was there. And I'm thinking, I was filming a movie, learning a show, having a baby, and all at the same time. This was all happening.
And you don't remember it at all. You don't remember doing it all simultaneously, except your son, obviously. I'm sure.
Right. Well, when I saw the video, I'm figuring out the timing. I'm going, that all happened at the same time. But I was a workaholic. I loved what I did. I worked all the time. And
you had so many shows you knew, which is, that was the cool thing when we got to know you a little bit more, was you're like, oh yeah, I was in that one. I was in that one. I was in that one. We're like, oh my gosh, you really did cover it all. You're like the major male star who covered all of the shows that they had at the time. Like, how many shows do you think at one time, the most that you had ever covered?
15.
Jeez.
There were 15 shows that I knew at the same time. And that was only when it was the Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So it was the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and then the convention shows. So within those, and then of course the resort show, Hoop-Dee-Doo Review, Broadway at the top. So I knew 15 shows, and then within those 15 shows, I knew 45 different roles.
Jeez.
So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was
somebody's
like
watching says 15. I said the same thing.
Yeah. Now that was all at one time. But what was so fun about that is, what would happen is if a family saw me, say, in Fantasy Follies during the day, and then they would go to the Hoop-Dee-Doo and they'd say, hey, weren't you in the...
Yeah.
And there I'm playing a character. I'm like, oh, that was my less attractive brother. And then the next night they'd be in the front row at the top of the world. And they'd be like, wait, how many of there are you? And I said, it's the same guy. And then
you should have said it's my twin brother.
Yeah. Well, that's my other twin. Yeah,
that's my other twin.
Yeah. So it was really, really fun to see people just go, oh.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's him. It's him.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because that happened to our family. So when I got through home videotapes, I didn't even know that you guys were collecting stuff for the film. I don't think I ever sent this, but I found some footage from Tarzan Rocks at Animal Kingdom, and you're on it. So here we go. So good. And there's a story
Oh,
behind
man.
this one because you were not supposed to be in this show. So you want to tell it to our audience?
Well, in the Tarzan show, yeah, no. So originally the show was cast, and they were opening. I didn't even audition for it because I thought, I'm getting older. I probably shouldn't. It opened in 1999.
Yes.
So I was almost 40 years old, and I thought, oh gosh, they would never cast an old guy in this. So I did an audition for the show. The show was in rehearsals, and it was about 5 days before the show opened, and one of their singers dropped out. So now they're opening in 5 days, and they have to figure out, what are we going to do? Well, my reputation at Disney was that I learned very quickly. So they had me come in, watch a rehearsal, and then I went over to a room, and all I had to sing was "Son of Man," just to make sure those were the highest notes. Could I sing that?
Yeah.
And I sang those 3 notes, and they said, "Okay, we're going to send you to rehearsal." So I went and did Hoop-Dee-Doo that next day, or whatever I had to do. So I started rehearsal on a Friday, rehearsed Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday had my dress rehearsal. Monday we opened the show.
Oh
So
my God.
I learned the show in 3 days, and then we opened the show.
Were you really nervous to go out on stage for this particular performance?
Once I actually learned the music and all, I didn't have the 6 weeks of rehearsal everybody else did. But the girls that were the other singers in the show and the cast was so supportive and so encouraging that it was just such a fun show. And I thought, how could I not have ever auditioned for this? It was fantastic.
Oh, Phil Collins, the best type of music. I miss it so much in the park. I feel like if that theater wasn't closed, it still probably would be there.
Right. Oh gosh.
Do you remember the ice cream man going up and down the aisle?
Yeah.
Because it was so hot. I just remember we had these popsicles because we're dying of heat, but we wanted to see you guys. We loved it.
That's the same stage that Finding Nemo was on. You know that,
exactly,
right?
but they enclosed that. I think, but I'm like, how dare they do it and just put Finding Nemo?
Right.
But I love Finding
Here's the
Nemo.
thing: doesn't Tarzan make so much sense for the animal kingdom?
Oh yes, exactly. That's why I'm like, I wish they would have just gotten another theater or something. I feel like Pocahontas is now missing. Tarzan is missing. There's so much missing in the park now because I remember the Pocahontas show. I loved it. So
and Reed Jones, the show director that created the show, brilliant. He actually created the Lion King show as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so
we love that one too.
Yeah. So the show is so fantastic. And so I did it opening day that day. And then I did closing day. So I was in it the entire 6.5 years. So I opened the show and closed the show. And it was Reed's choice because there were other singers that were fantastic that were in the show as well. And, we were trying to figure out, what are we going to do on the last day? Who's going to do the last show? Should we split it up and all that? Mm-hmm. And Reed made the decision. He said, you open the show. I want you to close it. So I was able to do the very last show. And that show was just, that one's on YouTube. You can find Tarzan Rock's final performance.
Oh, now I'm going to have to watch that. I didn't know somebody had posted it.
So and it was so
I'll be crying.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a tub of ice cream, eat it, and watch it.
My 6-year-old daughter, she was 6 at the time, was standing outside saying, I love my daddy. And it was just like the cutest thing.
Oh, yeah, like those are the best moments. Really, the best moments were because I was really surprised. So I know we're not like really good friends, but like I know you and of your performances, and I know a little bit about your family. So when I was watching this documentary, I remember there was a time where I was going to do an interview with Beth again, and we were going to involve you. And Beth was like, I don't think that's going to be happening because he's kind of off the grid. And we didn't know why at first, or I wasn't told. So
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But in this documentary, you kind of find out why. And I was kind of surprised that you guys decided to go there. What was that collective decision as a family to talk about, some of the behind the scenes? It's very personal.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why they wanted to do the film.
Mm-hmm.
Because they really wanted to make this a feel-good story, yet a lesson in life. And they're hoping that it will touch on so many people's hearts
Mhm.
because, being bullied in school and overcoming a lot of that, choosing a life of kindness, even though, I know a lot of people who were bullied become bullies. And for me, it was just the opposite. It was like, no, I would never want anyone to go through what I went through.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do the opposite and treat everybody with kindness. My career at Disney, my Flanograms, and then the very personal issue that you're talking about too. I don't know if we want to give too much of the film away, but I know a lot of people have been in the same situation as myself. And, my family broke up because of it. And it was a very hard decision to put that out there.
Mhm.
But we felt it was the right thing to do so that other people could possibly relate to it, and
Mhm.
hopefully it would help them in the long run.
And it was really interesting because after I'd seen like the rough cut of it, I was talking
Mm.
about your story to somebody else, and we were just going in detail, and I didn't, as somebody who is a straight woman, I don't know a lot about, other individuals, who I support everybody who, they decide to be, gay or transgender, any of that, but I didn't know that there are other stories out there of different types of lives that are lived. So it was so interesting. So when I mentioned it to this one person, and they were like, "Well, I know a couple people who've had the same story," and it kind of really opened my mind because I didn't really understand, and I didn't not understand. I didn't know that this is something that many people probably go through. So I was really impressed by you and your wife Karen, really opening your hearts, and also your kids, because they also tell how they felt. And I thought that that was just really, really special when I saw the rough cut of it first. And I was really shocked. I kind of had to rewind it and go back because I was just really surprised you guys went there. And I think it's so important because you don't really hear a lot of stories like this, but it happens. So I was really
Yeah,
impressed.
and there were a lot of tears. It was funny that they call this the happiest man on earth, and Cullen can pull so much out of you. And I cried a lot during a lot of the interviews. And I think this actually stayed in the film. And I said, I have no idea how you're calling this the happiest man on earth. All I'm doing is crying.
Oh.
And then for a while, the subtitle was Behind Every Smile Are a Million Tears.
Hmm.
And then they asked Carol Stein if she would write a song entitled Behind Every Smile Are a Million Tears. And overnight, and because she knows me so well, overnight, she wrote this beautiful song that closes the film.
Yes.
And not the whole song doesn't close the film, but there is a longer version of the song. It's like half of it.
Mhm.
But boy, oh boy, did she get every detail of my life just so spot on. And it
She
was
wrote the
so
lyrics too?
nice. She wrote the lyrics. Yep. They
Wow.
did. In the credits, they gave me credit for writing the lyrics with her. I changed one line because it made me uncomfortable. So I just changed one line. She
Mhm.
wrote everything else. I didn't do that. So that was awesome. Nice of them to give me credit, but it was all Carol. But as far as Karen goes, too, for me, what was so fantastic about the film, hearing my kids speak, and I never saw any of this before I saw the final cut of the film. Um, she really came off like a, a hero, or somebody who really overcame the most devastating thing that could happen to a woman.
Mhm.
And she just came off to me to be so strong, and having survived all of that, because we really thought for years that there would never be any chance that we would ever have a friendship, never mind speak to each other, you know.
Yeah.
um and COVID was a big thing, which really kind of turned that around. My
Mhm.
daughter's a type 1 diabetic, and she was living with me at the time, and Karen is the only one we'd let in the house during that time. And so we got so close. We're watching movies together, playing games, having dinners. She'd have sleepovers. So it was just all of that. And it was so nice to see Lexi see what she missed for all those years from when I left until that time. So it was difficult. And I knew, even watching the film, I had Lexi on one side of me crying her eyes out, and I'm holding her hand, and my boys were in between Karen, and she was crying and they were crying. So it was a lot to relive all of that. But
Yeah.
I give her just so much kudos for having come around. And she's such a strong woman now. You know,
Yes.
she's so independent, and it's so great to see all that.
And I
Fantastic.
love seeing the footage of you guys as young kids just performing together. It's
Yeah.
so cute. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the hair.
It was the 80s.
It was so good.
I mean, you think this is big? Wait till you see the 80s here. Yeah.
Well, so your final reaction after watching the film finally, and because so many of us got to see it, a rough cut of it, because Cullen was asking our honest opinions about the film. So
Yeah.
what was your final reaction?
I was so pleased. I was so nervous in the theater, thinking, is the audience going to be bored? You know, are they just going to be so sick of Billy Flanagan by the end of this? But the way it was edited, and I had the editor sitting behind me, the audience was laughing, and then you heard them sniffling, and then you heard them laughing, and then you heard them sobbing. And it was so nice to see or to hear all of these reactions. I was sitting in the front, so they were all behind me, but my legs were shaking the whole time, just wondering. And then my kids are crying, so I'm aware of all that. And Jeremy, the editor, is patting me on the shoulder, because the way that Cullen told the story was so fantastic. He did such a better job than I ever would have done. And weaving the Flanograms in there, and weaving my Disney career in there with the personal stories, and seeing my sister, who had a stroke in 2020, but she filmed this before her stroke. So seeing her in her former form was
Oh
just,
my God.
we all started crying about that. I was so pleased and so happy that all of that went the way it did. So, and I give it all to Cullen and Jeremy, because they're brilliant.
It was really lovely to see, and I do want to encourage everybody who's currently watching. In the show notes below, I have links to go ahead and rent or buy the film. It's on Amazon as well too. It's Billy Flanagan, The Happiest Man on Earth. So I encourage you to watch it, because Billy is so talented. I think the only thing that I had I really wanted more of was just more of you performing in the parks. Like, we got some clips, but we didn't get to hear you sing a lot, and I just love your voice. So I was like, I was happy with the Barbie stuff in there. I was like, yes.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah.
And speaking of Barbie,
that was great. And actually, Beth was in there. Mm-hmm.
I know. I was like, yay, Beth made it. So, but let me show a clip of the Barbie show, because it's one of my favorites. So here's
Okay.
Billy playing Ken.
Walla bear and wallaby, but have a care, 'cause animals need sharp claws. Living in the land of Oz. Woo!
Hey, mates, let's throw another shrimp on the Barbie.
Excuse me?
Oh, just an expression.
When we get to cooling, gotta order long gone. Find the beach where the surfers go. Real glad we brought our mates along. We're hanging 10 in the...
Oh, it cut off. I'm sorry.
Hanging 10 in the undertow. Yeah.
But like Beth said that this tape that I have behind me, which is like 30 minutes, just about these two girls going around the Epcot and then finally seeing the show. But the show that's on the tape is not exactly the final cut, because you did all these rewrites later on, right?
Oh, I mean, you've heard the stories. I'll tell your audience an abbreviated version of this, but we opened the show and closed the show the same day. And then we went back into rehearsals to redo the show. And they brought a new director in and rewrote a whole bunch of the scenes. And Ken was just kind of a side part in the first version of it. And the other person brought Ken up, and it was like, you know, at the end of the show, we were singing, "Oh, you gotta have friends." And Barbie and Ken went up on these lifts at the end. And then Mattel saw it, and they're like, there is no way Ken is getting as much publicity as Barbie. No one goes higher than Barbie. So then
oh my goodness,
redid the closing number again. And we did this Forever Friends, which is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And so Barbie had her moment at the very, very end. But yeah, they did not want.
Did you film any of it that before it was cut?
No, because here's the thing. It was before these.
I know. I'm just
There
so
was
bummed.
nothing. No.
They must have the whole entire version from that tape. They must have the whole thing filmed. I can only imagine that they did film the whole thing because you guys were tracked with mics. Unless you guys were doing certain songs. Do you remember filming this or?
I don't ever remember that we filmed. I mean, because literally we did, I think, 3 shows, and Michael Eisner came to the third
Michael
show.
saw it. Uh-oh.
He closed it. He came to the third, and he's like, nope.
I did not know
We're
that
done.
Michael closed it. Oh man, and that's
Oh.
not. And Michael's from the stories I've heard, he's a very big advocate in story in shows. He loves shows.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess it was not that good.
Oh,
It gets such a bad rap
was.
though. The show you did finally do, I feel like it gets such a bad rap. They're like, it doesn't end up in Epcot, and I'm like, well, I
Okay,
liked it.
first of all, I don't know how people say it doesn't make sense. Listen, people, it was the magical world of Barbie. She traveled around the world to help people. Epcot represents the world. How does that not make sense to anyone? Come on now. She went to France. She went to Australia. She went to Paris.
She originally went to Russia.
That was the bad part. That was cut out. Let me tell you. So I, as Ken, my job was to get Barbie to the next place she wanted to go to.
Yeah.
So my job was cool because I had the cars that were basically Transformers. So I'd drive out a Jeep and she said, we can't drive to Australia. That's okay. We'll fly. And then we turned the Jeep into a plane. So the surfboards became the wings for the plane and something became the propeller. And then we flew to Australia, so that was kind of how the story went. We got her a submarine. We got her another ship that turned into a hot air balloon. And it was great. Ken had a great job in that show. When we went to Russia, they gave me these boots and a very, very long fur coat. And I do have a picture of this. And I looked like one of those guys that would open his coat and have no clothes on because of the way that how long the coat was and you didn't see pants. So that was very funny.
Did you drive like huskies or dogs to get to Russia?
I'm trying to remember how we got to Russia, but one of the things, maybe we took a boat to Russia, and then we turned the boat into a hot air balloon to go to Paris. But Beth, so talented, great singer, gorgeous, but she wasn't a ballerina. She was not a prima ballerina. Now, originally the casting for Barbie went out and they wanted twins that were point dancers, ballerinas.
Jeez.
So, I mean, their expectations were really high and they just couldn't find it. And when they saw Beth in the Miss America pageant, they're like, well, there's our Barbie. But she was not a ballerina. So what they did was they had Barbie go to Russia. She was going to save the Russian ballet. And they had a double come out with a mask on and do the ballet dance, this whole Russian ballet dance. She took her bow and ran off stage. And then Beth ran back on to, take a second bow and then took her mask off. And it was Barbie. But everyone knew it wasn't Barbie.
I felt so bad for her, but I did see some pictures of it and I included them on the little documentary I made, a little fun editorial about the show. And it was really cool because I'd never known about it until I made that little, thing and everybody was telling me about it. So, but I love the show. And I always tell people, I'm like, they never stopped making Barbie the ambassador of friendship of Epcot. So technically she's still the ambassador. So
yeah. Hey, to me, it made complete sense. Anytime somebody said it makes no sense, why is it up? Like, okay, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But, that was me.
I had heard from some of the limo Barbies that occasionally they would they one time needed a Barbie and they had nobody, so Beth did it. Did you ever do that as a Ken?
Yep. The two of us would go over there once in a while. We get into the limo and go around. And we did the parade as Barbie and Ken, which was really fun. That was like a Christmas parade we were filming, and that was great.
I was like, oh, the limo. I heard it's no longer a limo anymore. It's probably in scrap
Yeah.
yard or something. But I was like, I want a pink limo like that.
Yeah.
But big fan of the Barbie show. I love it. So I'm so glad you got to be in it.
You know what? This is a funny story, if I may, just real quick.
Yeah.
Is a woman just reached out to me before the film, and she said, "I will be at the premiere. Here's a picture of me on stage with you during the Barbie show." So she was picked by Barbie to do the transformation when she was only 5, and so she came, and I always said to the little girl, "So, you want to give me a little kiss?" And it was very funny when they were all like, "No." No, I loved that. So she was a no, but she had a picture. She sent me the picture of that. And now she's an adult married with kids herself. And she was coming to the premiere so excited that she was going to be able to actually give me that kiss. So that night on the red carpet, she was there and she came up and she gave me my kiss finally. So that was cute.
Oh, did you guys get a picture? Because I want to see it. I want to see the before and after.
Oh, yeah, I think we did. Andrea has all those. I haven't seen any of the pictures from the premiere night yet. So
Okay, I'll ask her because I
well,
totally
she's
want
in
to
the
see
middle of the
that.
ocean right now. I'm not
How
sure I'll ever see them.
on Disney Cruise performing. How dare she?
Dare she?
Hi, Andrea, if you're watching. And then before we kind of wrap up, well, actually, we had a question in the chat from BP. Could you ask Billy, has he continued performing anywhere else, and what have you been working on lately?
What have I done for you lately? Yes. So I do a lot of performing on the outside with direct sales companies. I travel around with them during their big convention season, which is mostly over the summer. And I host shows for all of them, or choreograph or sing in a lot of their shows. So I'm not sure. Can I say other companies' names on
Of
your
course
show?
you can. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Party Light was a big one. Theorem, Princess House, Dove Chocolate was one. There was oh gosh, there were some of the others. What did I just recently do? Pure Haven, a lot of these companies. So I'll just travel around and host events for them and sing with them. I also just recently was hired as the show director for a dinner show here in Central Florida called Capone's Dinner and
Oh,
Show. So
nice.
yeah, my daughter was hired there to be a dancer, and I went and saw the show, and it really needed some help. And their show director had left, and
Mhm.
they put an ad out, so I applied and I got the job. So that's what I'm starting to work on now. I have auditions on Tuesday for the show, and then I have rewritten it, and I will be directing that, and hopefully making it really fun and good enough for them to boost their
Elevate it.
audiences up. Yeah.
Anything with the Billy touch will
There we
work.
go. They'll get the touch.
I would love to actually see it. I'll be back there next year. So how far away is it from Disney?
It's right in Kissimmee. It's right on 192 down
Okay.
It's not that far from Disney at all.
I would love to go. I would love to see your daughter perform. I love the videos you post of her at Sesame Place.
Yeah, she's doing a show right now at SeaWorld called Monster Stomp. It's their big Halloween show in their theater. She's
Mhm.
fantastic.
She's
And
playing.
yeah,
She's just like you. She's a great performer.
well, and she's just like me because she never says no, and she works all the time. She's doing that. She's doing Halloween Horror Nights. She just auditioned for the SeaWorld Christmas show. She was trying to call me and I'm like, I am in an interview. And she's probably telling me whether she got the Christmas show at SeaWorld or not. So. But she
Ooh, that's
auditions for Disney all the time. She hasn't gotten in there yet. She's had some callbacks, but hasn't gotten in. I have no pull, nor would I want to. I want her to get it on her own ability, not
Yeah.
just because I'm her dad. So, and
Hey,
my
I've been
boys are
trying
all
for
jacked.
years too, and I still haven't even gotten my foot in the door. So, but she's gonna do just fine. Like, she's so talented. I was
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
this is Billy's daughter, all right. So, hi, Lexi, if you're watching. Can you tell one more story before we sign off? I just popped into
Sure.
my head about the one night of Hoop-Dee-Doo, and for some reason there was no Claire. Do you
Oh
remember which
yeah.
story?
Oh gosh. So Hoop-Dee-Doo has 6 performers. There's Six Bits, Johnny, and Jim are the 3 guys. I performed all 3 of those roles on a full-time basis. Then there's 3 girls, Flora, Claire, and Dolly. So this was way before Equity got there. I taught the show for 15 years. Even when I wasn't there full time, I still taught all the new casts that went out. So I came in one night and I was Johnny and there was no Claire. And I'm like, well, I can, do the show by myself. Or our stage manager at the time was a Jim Handy / Johnny. And I said, well, unless Wayne wants to do Johnny, and I'll be Claire as a guy, and we can be the song and dance team, Johnny and Blair. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So I said, oh, come on, it'll be so fun. So I sat there, right before the show, and I'm like, here's where it'll go. It'll be great. That one, we only did it once. It didn't go as well as I thought it would. But I played Blair, Johnny's brother, and we were a dance team, and did the giggling. We just didn't do any romantic kissing or holding hands. But I also performed as Dolly, and I played Sixpitz's brother too. So won't you greet my brother too? And so I did. Now that one worked fantastically. That was great because we just were these siblings that fought back and forth, and it went great. So I've done 3 of the guy roles and 2 of the girl roles. I never did Flora.
But what year was this around? Because I'm sure it would never fly now, ever.
Oh gosh, no, it was before Equity, so it had to be the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Jeez. Oh my God. I wish you had been able to film that. I would have ate that up.
Oh, again. Oh, it was so good. And back in the day too, our stage managers really didn't have a big presence at the show because they kind of ran themselves. And the cast had what they call leads there and dance captains. There goes my light again. And so we kind of took care of everything ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we made the decisions. So yeah, we're going to do this tonight and it'll be great. And our shows were always great. The audience never really complained. So
no. Oh my gosh. Like and that was one thing when I looked back on our home videotapes, because you said you were in Hoop-Dee-Doo, and we went to see that almost every time we went. No Billy on our Hoop-Dee-Doo reels, but we have like some of your friends on there, and we love it. I can't wait to go back again after all of this COVID. I'm so glad they brought the show back. I was dying. I was like, they better bring it back.
So I did the show full time or subbing for 36 and a half years, and you never got to see me do the show.
We never saw you do the show. And that's the weird thing. We saw you 3 different times in Tarzan. And we've seen you all the time in Finding Nemo, which is always great. We love seeing you and seeing you after the show. But no, we never saw you in Hoop-Dee-Doo, which is such
I'll back up. See that picture right there was my last show at Hoop-Dee-Doo, and somebody took that picture at the very end of the show. I just looked up at the stage and, said my goodbyes, and somebody took an awesome picture of it. And it's back there. They blew it up for me.
I saw you posted on Instagram, and I was so sad I couldn't be there. It was like it's like a closing of a chapter, because that show is so it's Disney history right there.
Yeah, and having done all 3 male parts and 2 of the female parts, but only once, it was such a huge part of my life, and it was always my go-to show. Like if something closed and there was something in between, somehow there was always a hole at Hoop-Dee-Doo, and I got to go over there. So I never lost any of my seniority, and I never went without. I mean, I tell you what, God works in mysterious ways. We're all just, chess pieces there. And, when Barbie closed, an opening came at Hoop-Dee-Doo, and I got to go back over there, and I was over there for 5 years before Tarzan opened. Then Tarzan closed. I went to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Play It. And then when that closed, Finding Nemo was coming, but there was going to be a month in between where I wouldn't have anything. And if you leave Disney for 30 days, you lose your seniority. So,
geez.
So although I got cast in Nemo, once Millionaire closed, there was going to be too much time span there. Well, you know, somebody at Hoop-Dee-Doo put in for a leave of absence for 6 weeks. So
wow.
I got to jump over there, fill in for that leave of absence right during the time I would have been down, and then went right into Nemo. So I never lost anything.
Oh, thank gosh for
I
that.
know.
Well, and they also kept you on because there was only like a group of 20, 25 people that they did keep on in entertainment when COVID hit, and you were one of them. Is that correct?
Well,
Or
so everybody got furloughed, and Disney was great. They paid everybody for 5 weeks, and then they paid our insurance through. And then from that point on, you went and got unemployment and all that. When they brought shows back, I was one of the first ones they brought back, and they taught me a show I didn't know. And I had so much survivor guilt because there were a lot of people that knew the role that I was being brought back to do. And I think having had the publicity that they had with me during COVID, with it was always very positive. It was, Disney performer, um, everything said Disney performer bikes 7,000 miles, Disney performer spreading happiness. So I think they were very kind to be able to bring me back and taught me the show. So
yeah.
yeah, and it was a time our show had uh, 15 people
Mhm.
in it, and then they had the Dapper Dans. Yeah, so there was like 25 people.
Yeah, because I know Voices of Liberty they brought back too, and it was just such a sad time, and I've been so like now Fantasmic is coming back, so that's just
Right.
another feather in Disney's cap to bring back
Yeah.
entertainment. So I'm
Because
so
Nemo
glad.
was the last stage show that was brought back, so we were
Yeah.
the last of everything. And when they did, I was going to learn it just as a sub, but because they hadn't really hired enough people to cover 7 days and 6 shows a day, they kept me over there full time. So I'm back at Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond full time. And now I'm just subbing over at Frozen. And I do miss the Frozen family. Gosh, what a fun show that is.
Yeah, we
Oh,
that was our first time seeing it was with you in it, and it was
and
great.
I never saw it before I did it either. And it was around since Frozen opened.
Yeah. It was so
So
perfect. It was like, and I'm not a Frozen fan, so it was long enough and not too long. That was the good news about it. And I really loved how you guys were just playing and having a good time as the hosts of the event and the
yeah,
celebration and just watching the little kids. I was like, that was me when I watched Voyage of the Little Mermaid. You know what I
right.
mean? Like this is my Voyage of the Little Mermaid. This is their Voyage of the Little
Oh
Mermaid.
gosh, and when
So
it starts snowing, you just to see the kids in awe with their mouths open and all the snow going in their mouths. But they're, like amazed when Elsa comes out and their faces, it's just so magical. How could you ever want to leave there when you're performing there? You know,
no.
it's just the most magical job to go look at these faces daily. And especially when you have like the Give Kids the World kids that are there,
Mhm.
which are just so near and dear to my heart. Every time I see a button on, I'm like, we need to do a meet and greet
Yeah.
because I want to meet these kids. And it's just magical.
You know,
I
that
can't.
reminds me because, when I talked to Laura Lees, who did Esmeralda at the Hunchback show, they did a lot of that. And my you're just making me think, why did they never cast you as Phoebus? Because you got the hair,
Well, I
you know what I
did.
mean?
I did
Did
Phoebus.
you did? Oh my
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've never seen
Yeah.
any videos or photos of you as Phoebus
I
ever.
have one picture of me as Phoebus, and I can't even tell you who the Esmeralda was. I don't know who she is. I did it with Andrea and Amy and Michelle and Jamie and
I
this
didn't know
one
that.
picture I have. Yeah. So
Again, another show we saw all the time. My dad filmed it all the time because he loved it. You're not in any of our
I
footage.
did Phoebus and Victor. I was in the first subcast as Victor, and then they trained me in Phoebus, and then I never went back to do Victor. I just did Phoebus after that. But
Oh,
I
I would
was
have
only
loved.
I was only a sub, so I
Yeah.
wasn't there full time. But yeah, I did do Phoebus.
Oh god, and you have no footage of that? No video
None.
footage?
It was
Oh, oh my
before
god.
this.
I know it was like really. I remember my dad said, he would bring in like these really nice cameras. He would be one of the guys who'd bring in a nice camera from the 90s and he would want to film it. And when I'm watching it, not a lot of people have anything. They're not holding up their phones. It's like so great. It's just the guy has the camera on his
Yeah.
shoulder. So,
Yeah.
but I'm so darn okay. Well, maybe somebody might have it out there. If you
Yeah.
do and you notice it's Billy, please let us know because we want to see it. So
Right. I wish I could pull the picture up really quick because it's like I'll show you what I look like. Please
it will
tell
be
me
on
who
your
the Esmeralda
Instagram page. Why don't you mention all your social media pages
No,
so our
it
listeners
is.
can follow
There
you?
is a oh yes, okay. But there is a picture of me as Phoebus on there on Instagram.
Okay. Oh, now I'm
So
gonna be
on
looking for
Facebook,
that.
I'm just Billy Flanagan. And here's the thing. I rarely post anything on Facebook. My daughter set my phone up so that when I post on Instagram, it goes to Facebook.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how that works. That's why when People Magazine and Good Morning America, they were all reaching out, and they were reaching out through social media.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to look at the messages. And my daughter happened to be looking at my phone. She said, "Dad, you've got a ton of messages here." I'm like, "What?" And I start reading. It's like, "Hi, this is Wendy from People Magazine. Hi, this is so and so from Good Morning America." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
You got a lot
So
of
I have to
people.
learn how to do all that. But yeah, so my Instagram handle is at the Billy Flanagan, BILLYFLANIGAN, at the Billy Flanagan. And then Facebook is just Billy Flanagan.
I'm glad you
And
finally got on Facebook. I remember like you kind of resisted for a long time. I was like, finally he got on Facebook.
my daughter set it all up. She's the one that came up with the name, because she set me up for Instagram as well. She goes, "Dad, you have got to get on Instagram here." And she took my phone and she set me up, and she made up the name and all that. So
Well, thank you for doing that. I'm telling your daughter,
yeah,
Lexi, thank
good for
you.
Lexi. Yeah. And then you can follow the movie too, is Billy Flanagan Movie. I think at Billy Flanagan Movie. I think that's what it is.
And we really encourage all of you to go ahead, rent it, buy it. It is on Amazon. It's Billy Flanagan, the happiest man on earth.
Yep.
The link is in the show notes below, where you can check that out as well too. And I'll be posting the link as well on my website at Tammy Tuckey. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and we love to continue the conversation. So if you have any other questions for Billy that we didn't cover this evening, feel free to send him a message on Instagram.
While we do that too, I just want to mention Good Deed Entertainment is the company that picked the film up to actually distribute it. And it's also on Apple TV. So you can get it on Apple TV, iTunes.
Oh, good. Yes. I forgot about that.
It'll be available for purchase. The DVD will be available November 15th. So you can purchase that. But it is on Amazon, Google Play, Vudu, and on demand on many different streaming demand, whatever all that is. But please, if you do watch the film, rate it and review it, because I guess that helps algorithms and all the stuff I don't understand. So give it I hope you'll like it enough to give it a 5-star rating.
Yes.
That would really help. And I know the 12th Angel Productions, who have been so generous. Do they donated the proceeds from the premiere to the Southwest Florida Hurricane Fund.
Oh, very
Before
nice.
that, they were going to donate the money to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which they've made some generous contributions to them as well, because I have 2 kids now that are type 1 diabetics. So they have done that as well. So I made no money off of this. Zero. Zilcho. Everything went to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. The producers did this pro bono. I mean, it was an effort of love, and other people just giving, Randy Goodwin and 12th Angel Productions giving all the money to make this happen. So it was
It's a labor of love, and you can absolutely tell it was really wonderful to see and to get to know you in a different light too. Personally, because my family, we love you, and we're so grateful that we know you, and I can't wait to see you in the new version of the Nemo show when I come back next year. So it's just been great.
You want to follow Cullen Douglas, was the director and writer of the film, and he's also an actor. And he was supposed to be with us tonight, but I know he got called away. He is going to Hawaii to film an episode of Hawaii Five-0. He has been in so many things. Yeah, he's a really accomplished actor. So if you just look him up on IMDb, you can see a lot of the things that he was in, and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I totally know that guy."
He was
amazing actor.
He was on the show maybe sorry, my earbuds keep falling out. He was on my podcast maybe 6 years ago, and we talked about Sebastian's Caribbean Jamboree, which was filmed at Walt Disney World at the Beach Club. So he was one of the dancers in that. So we got to reunite some of the kids and some of the male dancers in the show. So that was the first time I got to talk to him. So it was so cool that he worked on this film. I was like, I told Andrea, I'm like, I know Cullen. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Just really, can you imagine every day for 2 years, waking up and sitting down and watching footage of me. I said, God bless his wife. I'm sure she is just so happy this film is open, so she doesn't have to deal with Billy Flanagan anymore.
Oh,
I
stop that.
jokingly say that to her, but she's so gracious and she's so wonderful. And she's texted me separately saying, no, it was just so awesome. And she's
You have so
delightful.
much, like, there's so much history with that. We didn't even get to cover that you were there for opening day of Epcot, right? 1982.
Opening day of Epcot.
And
Yeah.
so you were dancing there. So, you
Yeah.
know, there's so much we didn't get to cover and you will get to see in the documentary. So we'll have to talk more about that. It just happened, the 40th. So, you know, we'll have time. We'll do that.
Tammy, call me anytime. We'll do this whenever you want. So all of your guests watching can just be so sick and tired of Billy Flanagan.
Well, BP says he's going to watch it. So thank you for watching us tonight
BP,
and watching.
you're my best friend, BP. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, before we sign off, I just want to thank everybody for watching this evening. If you like what you see, if you like our reunions and interviews that I do on my channel, please like and subscribe on the videos, and you can comment along. And then again, thanks to Billy. You know, it's always fun to talk and get to chat with you, and I'm just so glad you're on the show today.
All American.
I got my Ambassador of Friendship shirt on. So I got my Barbie shirt.
Look at us. We are
I
so
was
obnoxious
ready.
with
My
Barbie.
friend made this, so I was like, I gotta wear it.
Did you
So
notice in the film when they interviewed Beth in the background, she had a picture of the two of us as Barbie and Ken.
It was so cute. I
So
love
cute.
it. I just like, you guys were so adorable. Like, just
Oh.
it was the perfect pairing. And those other extra photos that you had of just pictures of you guys are so adorable. Oh,
Yeah.
I just love the vid. And that video has like over 200,000 views. People comment on that constantly because I uploaded it. And it's on YouTube, The Magical World of Barbie birthday party, if you want to watch it. And you should see it because Billy's in it.
I did watch it right after you did it. You would let me know. So
Yeah,
I did.
and
Yeah.
I
It was
am telling
so
you,
great.
people just comment and comment. They're like, I remember this. I didn't know if it was real. And I'm like, thank God I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
So, but thank you guys for watching. Remember, you always got the Barbie and Ken touch today.
Right. More the Barbie touch, but that's okay.
It's okay. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks for watching.